Captain Peter Cutsie in South Korea, and this is my briefing room. First officers, pre-flight procedure. Flight control, switches guarded closed. Flight control low pressure lights, illuminated. Spoiler switches, guard closed. Yaw damper, on. The yaw damper light extinguished. The differential pressure, low quantity, and the low pressure lights extinguished. Alternate flaps switch guarded. Position switch off. The differential pressure, speed trim fail, Mach trim fail, and auto slap fail lights should all be extinguished. They are except the auto flap fail. Correction, the auto slap fail. Maintenance is coming out to the aircraft. This is no go. So we'll continue with the check. Remember, all of these should be extinguished. Navigation panel. VHF nav transfer, normal. IRS transfer, normal. FMC select switch, normal. Displays panel. Source selector, auto. And then the FMC source select switch, normal. Next is the fuel panel. Verify that the left engine and right engine valve close lights are illuminated dim. They are dim, just hard to see with the software in this particular lighting conditions. And also the spar valve closed lights are dim, and they are dim. Verify that the filter bypass lights are extinguished, and they are in fact extinguished. Crossfeed selector closed. The crossfeed valve light, or the crossfeed open light, is extinguished. Fuel pump switches off. We've got the aft, left aft boost pump on because the APU is operating. The others are off, and the respective low pressure lights are illuminated. Let's go up to the electrical panel. Battery switch, guard closed. The cabin utility, on. The IFE passenger seat, on. Standby power switch, guarded, closed. And the verify that the standby power light is out. Battery discharge light is out. TR unit, out. And elect light, out. When I say out, I mean extinguished. The generator drive disconnect switches, guarded, closed. The drive lights, illuminated. The bus transfer switch, guarded, closed. And the transfer bus off lights, extinguished. The source off lights, extinguished. And the gen off bus lights illuminated in blue. Now, if you haven't done the APU, engine APU overheat fire warning test, now would be the time to do it. But in our case today, we started from a cold airplane, and we went ahead and did that test already, and it worked fine, and we are now using electrical power from the APU, so we don't actually get involved with that part of the check at this point. So we go right through to the next part, which is equipment cooling. So we'll go up to that. Now these light switches, circuit breaker light and panel lights as required, because you always start from top to bottom, and the lavatory light would be extinguished, and the equipment cooling and supply and exhaust normal, and the respective lights are extinguished. The emergency lights, guard, closed, and the light is extinguished. Passenger sign set. If you are refueling and we're not, you put the passenger sign on. If you were refueling, the passenger sign would be left off until refueling was complete. Windshield wiper selectors, park. Go up to the top of the next panel. Now there are 5 particular panels that we're looking at. And the window heat switches on. And we always go left to right, top to bottom. And position the switches on at least 10 minutes before takeoff. And verify that the overheat lights are extinguished. Verify the on lights are illuminated except very high temperatures such as Dubai in the summer at plus 50 degrees. These may be cycling or all may be all off because of the heat on the windshield. Probe heaters on or auto depending on the aircraft, and verify that the lights are illuminated. Now in the auto position they would be illuminated until you turn them on, and that's important. You don't have an auto position here, and they will go on next in the before taxi procedure. Wing anti-ice off, engine anti-ice off, and the respective cowl lights are extinguished. Hydraulic panel, engine pumps on, and the low pressure lights illuminated, and the electrical hydraulic pumps off, and verify that the overheat lights are extinguished and the low pressure lights are illuminated. Door lights, now they would be probably quite a few of them open, depending on where they're at. In this particular software, I'm unable to do that. We'd at least have the cabin door open and some cargo doors open at this point. By the way, incidentally, this is a great trigger for what's happening around the aircraft. The fewer lights you have on, you know that you're progressing to the point that you're ready for departure, until you only have one light on, and that's the cabin door, would probably indicate that you're very close to be ready for departure. So that's something just to note. Air conditioning panel set. The air temperature source selected as required. Let's go up to the top. And this is the last panel in the overhead panel. So you would put the settings as required, and trim air on. And the rest of the verify the zone temperature lights are extinguished, and they are in fact extinguished. Set the temperature selectors as needed. Normally auto will give you the correct temperature, around 23 degrees Celsius. And verify that the zone lights are extinguished. Air temperature source as needed. Okay. Temperature, verify that the rammed air is full open, ram air, doors are full open, and they are. Reinsert fans, auto. Air conditioning packs, in this case auto, because the APU is running, and we set that up before, so auto. Isolation valve, open, we need that for engine start later. Air and engine bleeds, on. APU bleed, on. And if you notice, a good time is to look up here, and we got almost 30 psi, which is what is required for engine start, but we'll be turning the packs off later, so that's okay, it looks good. And they're both together, and they should be, because the isolation valve is open. All right, so all of these things mean something. All right, so that's just extra. as we're talking. And as far as we have to make sure the engine bleed switches are on and verify that dual bleed is on. It's up here and it is on. And now we'll verify that the wing body overheat lights are extinguished and the bleed trip-off lights are extinguished. So the pack lights extinguished, the wing body overheat extinguished, and the bleed trip-off lights are extinguished. Down to the cabin pressure control panel now. Verify the autofoil light is extinguished, and verify that the off-schedule light, off-schedule descent light is extinguished. Flight altitude indicator, cruise altitude. This altitude here will be the final cruise altitude. Today on our flight, the final cruise altitude is flight level 300. So let's set it to flight level 200 on our flight to Dubai. The landing altitude is set for destination. The destination airport elevation is provided at 60 feet. So the next setting is 100 set. Pressurization mode selector, auto. And verify that the alternate light is extinguished, and it is extinguished. And the manual light is extinguished. So the alternate and manual lights are extinguished. Lighting panel set. So you go down to the lighting panel. Everything is left to right. So all the lights, the retractable fixed lights are retracted and off. When we turn off, taxi lights off, and that is all right. Ignition selector, ignition left or right. Well, first flight of the day, it's going to be right. And then we go on to the engine start switches off. Logo as required. We're at nighttime, so the logo is on. And the position strobe steady off to steady, it should be on steady at this particular time. And it says as needed, but it's steady for the time being. Anti-collision off, wing lights as required off, and wheel well lights as required. Space off. Let's go down to the mode control panel next. Anytime a master caution is on the ground without the engine running, any pilot can cancel without checking with the other pilot, but you should know why it's on, and that's all the situational awareness. Mode control panel set. Course is set. Now, the first officer is doing this. He'll reach over and set 084, 084 for our departure out of Muscat, and the flight director switches on. The captain's going to be doing the flying, so the captain's flight director switch on first. So make the selection to the captain's FCC later. And then the first officer would select his on second. EFIS panel. Let's go to the EFIS panel. The captain will do his EFIS panel later. Let's zoom in on that. Minimum selector, select radio or barrel. We're going to select barrel. And minimum selector, select to a decision height or altitude reference. Well, later on in this, once you get your figures from the OPP, depending on your airline, but many airlines set the engine out acceleration altitude rounded up to the nearest 10 feet. Well, the altitude in Muscat above sea level at the airport is 25 feet, so rounded up to 30 plus 800 is 830. So if you notice, I've said 830. All right, so we've done that. So next, flight path vector as required. So we will put it on, and we'll talk about that in later courses, in briefings, I should say. Meter switch as needed. We're not going to use the meter switch for our area today. Barometric reference inches or hectopascals. Well, it's hectopascals for this airport. and we are selected hectopascals. And next, barometric selector, select the local altimeter setting. Well, it's 1013, and we'll make sure it's 1013. We'll set that now. Here we are here, 1013. Why do we know that? Well, remember that when you sat in your seat, you checked your oxygen panel and mask as per your SOPs. That's normally when you do it. No seat belts or rudder pedals, not now. That comes later on. You sit in your seat, you do your oxygen panel first. Very important. If you had a problem with it, you've got to get maintenance here so you don't take a delay. And then the next thing you would do is copy the APIS so that you would have the altimeter setting at this point. So we've got it, we set it, 1013, and we checked our altitude against the limitations, and we're well within what we need. The VOR ADF selectors, as required, we're going to turn both of them to VOR. In this case, map selector, map, mode selector, center switch as required. We're not going to use the center switch now. Range selector as needed. We'll use the 20 scale, which gives us 10 at center screen, so that we can see what's happening later. Right now, what you should have here loaded is the entire route should be loaded. So all of that is on the screen here. The route should be loaded. All right, so that's what we're going to assume that we're looking at now. It's loaded. All right, okay. And the traffic switch as needed. Well, right now it's off, and later actually it should be probably in the on, but not TCAS RA yet. Depends on your airport authorities and what you need. So let's just zoom in on that and make sure that we have it on. All right, let's go back up. So the TCAS is indicating off. Go back and just make sure we've got the correct setting. All right, that should indicate that we do have the TCAS. So TCAS is off. We'll get that later. It'll be TCAS, TARA later on the takeoff. This just could be a software problem here with what we have. Let's go back to the. In any case, the traffic switch as needed. That's good enough for now. Weather radar off, and the weather radar is here. It is here, and it's off, and it's indicating off. That's where you would have it if it was on. So that's correct. And the map switches as required. All the other switches as required. The oxygen test is and set is not needed if the oxygen pressure drop was done at the station during the preliminary pre-flight procedure. Captain or first officer. And in most cases, most airlines have that test done at the very beginning. And in many cases, let's say for this scenario, the first officer did the pressure drop, no more than 100 psi, when he got into his seat, as I mentioned before. So that's not required. If it wasn't done, it's to be done now at this particular point, and here it is here. So we'll do that, see that in a later test. Now, once we've done that, we go over to the clock and make sure that the time and date push button UTC time is set, and the display select panel. You have to bear with me as I'm zooming. The actual check would be much faster. So the display select panel normal, and get us looking at the right spot here. All right, we're looking at the right spot, and they are set with respect to the main panel display units normal and lower display units normal. All right, we're talking about the upper and lower display units here. Take off configuration light verify extinguished. So these lights are up here, and the if install and operative verify extinguished, and cabin output light install and operative over here is extinguished, and it is. The disengage test switch hold to 1. So we will hold the test switch to number 1. Stand by. And 3 amber lights verify the autopilot light steady amber, auto throttle light steady amber, and it is, and verify that the FMC light is illuminated steady amber. Then the number 2 test, number 2, that the autopilot light is illuminated steady red, auto throttle illuminated steady red, and the FMC is steady amber, and it is. Then do the initial data navigation steps from the CDU pre-flight procedure and verify the IRS alignment is complete before checking the flight instruments. So the IRS alignment is complete, and you can check back for flight instruments. Flight instruments check the flight instrument indications are correct. Verify that these flights are shown. GCAS off, okay. So we were correct in our assumption before. I'm learning too. And no V speeds until you have done your performance. And there you have it, no V speed, right? Now, right now, we're assuming that the captain is off the flight deck doing the walk around. If he was here now, he would be doing his checks separately, all right? Okay, so that's correct. Verify the flight mode enunciations are correct. Well, the flight mode enunciations, the auto throttle, now, in this case, auto throttle should be blank. So let's just go up here and make sure that we don't have the auto throttle switch on. For some reason, somebody, probably me at some other time, actually armed the auto throttle and didn't have it off. So this is why we do these checks. We do checks so that later on when we do a checklist, that everything has been done properly. That's the Boeing concept, is the procedure comes first, and then the check comes after. All right, so that's why we're doing it. So let's go ahead and do that again. So the auto throttle mode is blank, it is. Roll mode blank, and the pitch mode blank. The autopilot AFTS status, flight director, okay? And select the map mode, all right? So we can go up and select the map mode, which we are already in map mode from. Now let's just zoom out here a little bit here and go through the ground proximity panel check. Here it is here, and we'll just bring it up and we'll have a closer look at it here. Just zoom in. There we go. Ground proximity panel check. Flat switch. Guard closed. Is gear inhibit. Guard closed. Terrain inhibit. Guard closed. Ground proximity in off light extinguished, and it is. And landing gear panel set. So let's go up to the landing gear panel. All right, we are there. Landing gear panel. Landing gear lever down. It is. Verify that the 3 landing gear green lights are illuminated. They are. Verify that the red landing gear indicator lights are extinguished, and they are. Auto brake, RTO. So we'll select it, RTO. The light will flash on and off, indicate it is fine. And verify that the auto brake disarm light is extinguished, and it is. Any skid and off light, extinguished. It is. Engine display panel, N1 selector. Here we are up here. Now, one thing I want to mention for your flights, and also for any simulator flights you're going to have, the N1 selector auto. If this switch is not in auto, whether it's a real flight or whether it's a simulator, you're not going to get the at least the speed reference in auto. You're not going to get your speeds later. You'll have a problem getting these. You won't be able to get them later on when you actually make your selections in the CDU. So make sure that the N1 selector auto, yes. Speed select, reference selector, auto, yes. Fuel flow, reset, and rate. Move switch to reset, then rate, and you did. Engine instruments check. Verify the primary and second engine show existing conditions. Well, and they are showing these. We are shut down, and the N1 selectors are indicated at 0, and there's no EDP. And let's go down to the lower panel. Let's just kind of zoom out a little bit so we can have a view. So they are, in fact, correct. And we do have oil quantity, minimum 13 quarts, as we mentioned before. And all the other indications are normal for the conditions we are at now, which is the engines are shut down. So the hydraulic quantity does not show an RF. Hydraulic quantity doesn't show an RF. There's no RF indicating for the hydraulic quantity. Now we can go up here and just have a quick look at that. And the hydraulic quantity, fine. All right. So let's just go back and we'll select the normal engine parameters for engine start. Cargo fire panel. Down to that. Let's do it. Let's zoom in on that. Now I have to mention to you the software. This software is great, by the way, for the aircraft. There are a few little glitches in it. One is the fire bell. We're unable to cancel the fire bell by selecting the master warning lights, either light on the glare shield in the software. When we actually do it, we cancel the bell by canceling the light, but all the other remaining lights, not the red warning lights, all the other remaining lights should stay on. They don't in this test here. So as long as you know that, we talked about that before when we did the engine fire warning test before. So let's just do the test, and we've got the two fire extinguisher lights, the forward and aft red lights illuminated, and also the discharge light on. And when we cancel the bell on the glare shield, the red warning lights extinguished, and the bell canceled, but the remaining lights that we saw here in this test remained on. So that's important that you know that. And then the HUD as required. We won't discuss HUD now. We'll do it in a further lesson, which I've done, by the way. I've done 4 good videos on HUD setup, the briefings on the HUD. Radio tuning panel. Okay, so down to the radio tuning panel. So you would set up your radios as set for departure. We're in Muscat, so probably a good idea would be to set Muscat VOR the frequencies you would have on the VHF. would be what your company SOPs determine. Normally on the ground, you're going to be monitoring ramp and monitoring heat, just in monitoring company. So you do whatever your company tells you. If you don't have a ramp control, you'd be on a ground control. You always should be monitoring ground when you're sitting on a flight deck, and probably company. Do whatever your company SOP says. So these are your communications. As far as your navigation set for departure, you can set up the VOR for Muscat is 114.5. So let's just set that little one up. And then select it over, okay? And likewise on this side. All right, so we won't spend too much time on that. Some companies, and I highly recommend it under low visibility conditions with RVR less than 400 meters, and even say down to 75 meters to tune the ILS for the runway if you have an ILS, to confirm your centerline identification, that when you roll out on the centerline taxiing, and then you can actually delete it or select maybe a VOR frequency after. That would be all part of your company SOPs, and it's all part of airmanship. So your radios would be set up, then your weather radar control panel, set it up. I can't do it here. In this software, you do it in accordance to the SOPs, which I'm reading, by the way, directly from the FCOM. And now that actually finishes your the first officer's pre-flight procedure. 3 more items left in the procedure. Now you actually adjust your seat, rudder pedals, and then shoulder harnesses. Those are the last 3 items. That is the trigger to the captain that you have finished your pre-flight. You're done. I hope you enjoyed the briefing. Contact information is on the screen. And we'll be doing the captain's pre-flight in a separate video. Thanks for watching. I've got close to 100 briefings now on Google Drive, and close to 50 to 60 PowerPoint shows supporting those briefings. Everything from the cold airplane electrical power up through all the procedures, 20 of them, through to the secure procedure, and many other bits of good information. Passionate, stay professional. See you soon.